To you, it's murder because they're alive in there. To you.
But they would have a life.
To
they would
you.
have a life regardless.
So what about stillborn baby? They get born, they're dead. It's not an abortion.
That's different. Then they died. When they were stillborn, they
baby.
died. That's completely different. Life ends at some point. God will end your life at some point. But to sit here and end it on your terms.
What happened to my turn?
What
happened to my turn in speaking, brother? So you want to talk about abortion being murder? To you, that's a religious opinion that you hold.
And a factual one.
It is
because you're taking away the right
to
life from someone.
It's not.
You are killing them.
We're here at Penn State University to see if liberal and conservative students can find real common ground.
Every round they succeed, they add $20 to the pot. But wait, at the end, there is a twist. Let's do something.
Okay, I'm Maddie McKenzie. I'm a freshman here and I'm studying political science. I'm a very conservative Republican, very right-wing. I guess my beliefs are I don't believe abortion should be allowed in any circumstance. I'm completely against immigration. Those are just some of my beliefs. I believe in strong defense. I believe in our Constitution and protecting its rights, particularly the Second Amendment. I was just elected vice president of Penn State College Republicans. I'm also the director of outreach for College Republicans of America, so at the national level. And I am the head of communications for the Pennsylvania Federation of College Republicans. So I'm very involved with the movement, and I'm proud to be a really conservative person.
I'm Andy. I'm a third-year junior here at studying nuclear engineering. I describe myself as an extremely left-winger person. Democratic socialist primarily, and my views pertain that abortion should be allowed to anyone in any situation, that immigration should be free, easy, and accessible, and that our country is currently going into an authoritarianism ruler. And I believe that those who agree with someone who is acting as if they're a dictatorship is currently in line with the ideas of a dictatorship and not a democracy.
Wait. You guys don't even know how this game works. We're here to explain.
One liberal and one conservative will sit on opposing sides of the table and will be presented with 3 divisive topics.
The aim of the game? Find common ground.
Common ground is established by 2 things: one shared fact and one shared action item to ensure a better tomorrow.
Each time that they come to common ground, $20 is added to the pot.
Now back to the video.
Do guns make America safer or more dangerous? A minute opening statement, and then we'll have a discussion. So everyone should start.
Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that guns do make America safer as long as it is an individual ownership of smaller weapons. And we have strict control and regulation on heavier, more dangerous weapons like assault rifles, semi-automatics. And I believe that ensuring that every individual who is trying to obtain a firearm has to undergo regular mental health checks, background checks, and has to ensure that they are not a criminal, they are not a domestic abuser, and they are in no position to harm or kill an animal or a person in an unfortunate situation.
Can I respond?
Yeah, opening statement. You have a minute.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that, criminals shouldn't be able to have guns. I agree with you to some extent on gun control, but do you know the military definition of an assault rifle?
I believe this is your opening statement.
Well,
After.
my only point would be that it means that it has about 10 rounds per magazine. And when, gun control activists use that term assault rifle, they actually use it to ban a variety of different guns that don't constitute an assault rifle, particularly the U.S. military definition of an assault rifle. So when they're banning all of these guns, what the problem becomes is they're actually banning guns that should be completely legal, safe, and important to one's rights to use for their self-defense, but those are getting banned because gun control activists go ahead and use that term assault rifle as a fear tactic to convince people to ban guns that shouldn't actually be banned. So these include pistols and semi-automatic guns that actually aren't as scary as the word assault rifle may sound. So I would just encourage you to consider that that's a gun control activist term that's not as clearly defined as you might think.
What's the #1 cause of death for children in the United States?
School shootings.
Gun death.
Right. But what I would ask you to consider is...
How many children have to die before guns become too unregulated?
Well, I think that's because of the mental health crisis in America.
Do you have a number?
Listen, it's...
How many children have to die before guns become too dangerous?
It's not about that, though, because the reason that school shootings happen is completely different. It doesn't have to do with guns getting into the hands of the right people.
So the 8 children who died...
Excuse me, I'm speaking. What that has to do with is a mental health crisis in America that people seem to be supporting, where we're not properly medicating people, we're not taking care of people. Who commits the most school shootings? So I'd point out that maybe this is a mental health crisis that's not being addressed.
We need a moderator because I don't want... I need a moderator and I need fact check.
I'll respond to that and then we'll give it to you.
When it comes to gun control within the United States, I I think when we hide behind the excuse of mental health, when we absolutely refuse to address the underlying reasons why so many individuals in our country struggle, we undermine the problem that gun access and the lack of gun regulations in our country's cause. Like, we literally refuse to look at homelessness, we refuse to look at poverty, we refuse to look at poor education, poor healthcare. We refuse to look at the underlying problems that do cause mental health issues within our country. We refuse to look at the underlying societal problems that contribute to mental health. We don't look at bullying, we don't look at racism, we don't look at sexism, we don't look at homophobia or even transphobia, any kind of religious discrimination. We don't look at those underlying societal factors that do feed into the mental health crisis that we currently face within our country. We can talk about mental health. Mental health is absolutely a big problem, but the second you want to sit there and say mental health is important, we're going to defund healthcare, we're going to defund health insurance, we're going to defund the resources that individuals can have, including veterans, and the resources they have to mental health resources. Absolutely, full stop. We can talk about mental health, we can talk about gun deaths. Yes, mental health issues do cause a lot of gun deaths, and I'm not denying that. But I am saying that without more regulation, without more gun control, children are dying. 8 children died within the past week. And that's unfortunate, but we need to address gun deaths.
I'm going to pass that on.
My point would be that the majority of states do have incredibly strict gun control laws, and guns are absolutely essential for an individual's protection of their self-autonomy. It is their right to own a gun, and you cannot use a school shooting, which is, again, a mental health issue, as an excuse for taking away somebody's constitutional rights. What I would also like to point out is that the police presence in schools can completely eradicate the school shooting issue. But I've noticed that liberals seem to think that we should defund police systems. If we were to increase our police presence in schools, it would make it much safer, and that would be much more effective than taking away people's constitutional rights because 8 kids died this week. That's a travesty. I understand that that's very upsetting, but that is no reason to take away somebody's rights. And clearly gun control is not working because the majority of states do have very strict gun control laws, and it's not working because, to your point, 8 kids died this week. So that's what I would say.
I would like to respond that happened in Louisiana, which don't have strict gun control. And I'm sure that to some people, a strict gun regulation is you have to show an ID when you buy one. But to me, a strict gun regulation means that you get a background check, mental health check, and you have to undergo training to carry a weapon. I'm from Maryland. Maryland is...
Me too.
Shout out. Maryland's it's a bluer state. I'm from a very red county. I grew up with a very conservative father who served 40 years in the military. He has always raised me to store a gun properly, to take education classes, know how to use a weapon, never ever handle a weapon that you don't know how to completely control, never store a loaded weapon. And also that the access to firearms within this day and age is entirely out of control. Too many unfortunate individuals have access to firearms that should not have access to them. People who are domestic abusers are allowed to have access to firearms. When you want to go into strict gun laws, we need to look at the states that have very large sales of private gun sales. There's very little regulation on private gun sales, and I understand that it's a problem. But in the state of Texas, in 2015, 2016, if someone could go into a private gun sale and buy a weapon without a background check, without a waiting period? We need to look at these states. And we need to say, okay, you are allowed to have a firearm. I believe in the right to have a firearm. I plan on having a firearm when I'm old enough. I could plan on concealed carrying a firearm when I'm old enough. But my firearm will be a pistol, will be a gun that I have training on. I know how to store properly, that is registered within my state, that I am 110% aware of at all times. And an assault rifle, a semi-automatic, any kind of weapon that is used in most popular mass shootings, being these semi-automatic and automatic rifles, they should be more strictly regulated. They are military-grade weapons. In our military, you have to go out and you have to train. If you are on that gun range and you have no idea how to use a gun, they're not handing you a gun to go into the field. You have to know how to use it, you have to be safe to use it, and you cannot be a harm to anyone else or yourself. We do not hold the rest of our country to those standards for these weapons that are dangerous. And I completely think that guns can make America safe. But when we refuse to regulate them, we refuse to look at the people who are abusing them, then we have to look at the question of what can we do to make sure people have the right to own them, can safely own them, and that they are used appropriately without abuse.
I don't think that you can use these microcosmic examples as a justification for taking away the Second Amendment. And what I would point out is not only is this a mental health issue, but it's also a law enforcement issue. So like I've said, the increased police presence in schools. But more importantly, when we're talking about the right people getting guns the legal way, those aren't necessarily going to be the people committing school shootings. Those aren't necessarily going to be the people committing gun crimes. What you're talking about a lot here is all of the illegal gun usage, the illegal gun purchasing. I mean, that's where the real problem is. Why should those people making certain mistakes and doing the wrong things cause other people who are getting guns the right way, who are being safe and who are following their Second Amendment rights, why should their right get taken away because of what certain people are doing? And then we're not addressing the crime problem. We're considering, addressing the crime problem is racist and it's something that we shouldn't do. Yet, that's where it's really coming from, is illegal usage of guns. I just think that that's completely ridiculous, and you're just not solving the actual issue. And just more gun control is not going to fix the issue.
Can we try find a point of common ground of this subject?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
both, I think, would conceal carry, right, in the future.
Yes, we
That's
would
definitely
both
a point
conceal
of common
carry,
ground.
and that when used appropriately, can make America safer.
Stop! What are your thoughts on this conversation?
Would you be able to find common ground on this topic?
Let us know down in the comment section below. Now back to the video.
Is abortion a human right, or is it a taking of a human life?
Can we lay a ground rule? Is this a debate based in fact or religion?
I mean, I'm a Catholic, so part of my beliefs do come from that, but I can just focus on the facts if you want to do that.
We want to talk about facts? Cool. Okay, fact-based. You can open if you want. I can open if you want.
Either way, what would you prefer?
I don't mind. I can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe abortion is a human right. I believe it is a healthcare decision that should be made between an individual and their doctor. Scientifically, we have no definition for the beginning of life. Scientifically, a fetus is not a baby. Scientifically, life, we do not have any actual definition for the beginning of life. And without religion, I'm a Buddhist. I believe in souls. I do believe in reincarnation. But I also believe that forcing a 10-year-old to give birth to a child produced by her father raping her is a right that she should have. And I think that children die. I think that women die. And I think the second we begin to restrict abortion, more deaths are going to happen. And actually, if you want to talk about abortion and you want to prevent abortions, we need to increase sex education. We need to increase access to contraceptives. We need to increase information to consentful sex. And we need to put a stop to abusive relationships. And we need to further crack down on rapists and those who sexually assault other individuals. Because in our country, we do not penalize rape enough.
10 seconds.
Less than 5% of rapists will see jail time. And if we prevent the need for an abortion, less abortions are going to happen.
The one thing I want to say that's most important to me is that the circumstances of your conception do not define you as a person. I don't think that it is fair at all to deny someone their life because of the circumstances of their conception. That's not on them. That's not their fault. And to allow someone to murder someone because of the circumstances of their conception is disgusting. Yes, I am a Catholic, so part of my beliefs on abortion do come from that. I don't believe in contraception. I don't believe in abortion. That being said, the fact is the fact that it is a murder. And what I don't understand is if life doesn't start at conception, then when would it start?
At first
It's
breath,
very
as
clearly
listed
put
in
that-
the Bible.
It's my turn. It's very clearly put that whether you think that it's scientifically a life, because if life doesn't begin at conception, again, when would it start? But let's say you scientifically don't believe that that's a life, but it's going to be a life. So you're denying someone that life regardless. At what point all of a sudden are we not allowed to deny someone their life? Where is the line drawn? All of a sudden the line is drawn right as they're born. That doesn't make any sense. You have no...
Let's answer the question.
Well, I'm sorry.
I want to pass it to you.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm on overtime. That's my fault.
I believe it's a human right. Also, when you talk about owing to a life of another person, we don't force people to have organ donations. If I was the person, a doctor was like, "You're the only person. You have to donate your kidney to someone, otherwise they will die." They will die. You can give your kidney. No one else can match it. You have to give your kidney or that person will die. I still have my bodily autonomy and my right to say, I'm not giving you my organ. I'm not giving you me. Even I can live without it. I'm perfectly fine without one of my kidneys because health-wise, I can donate a kidney, I think. But I'm not obligated to. They're not going to arrest me. They're not going to, now that family might say, oh man, like our family member is going to die. Don't you care? And I'm like, yes, but I just personally don't feel comfortable. I have no legal obligation. I might have a moral obligation to some people. I might have an ethical obligation to some people. But legally, when it comes down to whether I have to give my organ, no one's forcing me to give my organ. No courtroom is going to sit me down and say, you're giving your organ or we're sentencing you to death. We're sentencing you to prison. Like how we are currently treating women within our country. And that is absolutely not okay. We don't obligate ourselves to save anyone else's life at any other point. And I think that when we sit here and we're like, well, you owe the right to the baby that you, I don't know, conceived, even if you were forced to conceive it, or even if you weren't aware that you conceived it, or you're 10 years old and you get raped, you get assaulted by an adult. I didn't want to be vulgar.
No, you're against.
If you're a 10-year-old and you get assaulted by your father, or by your uncle, or by another man,
10 seconds.
and you become pregnant, you have no obligation as a child to give birth to another child. The same way I don't have an obligation to give my kidney to any other person on this planet Earth.
I'm going to pass that on.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say that less than 1% of abortions are the result of rapes in these examples that you're talking about.
Fact check.
You're basing an entire argument off of about less than 1%
Fact check. No,
of abortions.
I need a
So
fact check
I think
on
that's
that.
sort of an insane statistic to base an entire argument off of. Secondly, I think you're confused about autonomy here because this is completely different from donating kidney. It is, and unless it's in the instance of rape, it is your actions and it is your responsibility that you have conceived this child. It's your actions, right? Unless it's rape, then it is up to you then to be responsible for your actions and to not kill someone because you made a mistake. Because no child is a mistake. And again, the circumstances of their conception do not define them as a person. And they have every right to live regardless of how they were conceived. And it is ridiculous to say that their life should be worth less because of the circumstances of their conception. And I just think that to use the example of donating a kidney is completely different because we are talking about the child that you have conceived. This is most likely, unless in that 1% of cases that you're basing your entire argument off of,
I need a fact
the
check.
result of your actions.
On the 1% figure is frequently cited from a number of studies. Some will say it's up to 5%.
1 to 5%. That is no reason to base your argument off of.
How many children have to get raped and get pregnant before you're okay with abortion?
That is the circumstances of their conception.
So
and to
how
say
many,
here,
how many 10-year-olds have to get ripped apart from?
is it my fault that 10-year-olds are getting raped? Let's talk back about the mental health crisis
No, you want to talk, okay,
that you don't
sure.
want to address.
You want to talk about rape? Sure, that is a problem that we need to crack down on rapists as well. But when we're talking specifically about abortion, I believe abortion is a healthcare decision. No,
it's not a
other person-
healthcare decision
it
to
is-
murder someone.
No,
you are
that's
you
a
are taking
personal
the right to life
religious
away
opinion.
from them.
That's a
Do you not
religious
believe that
opinion.
people have the right to life?
I'm talking, man. Abortion, your idea of it being murder, to you is because it's a constituted life within the womb. To you, it's murder because they're alive in there. To you.
But they
to-
would have
no,
a
no,
life.
no. To
They would
you.
have a life regardless.
So what about stillborn baby? They get born, they're dead. It's not an abortion.
That's different.
To
Then
give
they
birth to a
died. When they were stillborn, they
baby.
died. That's completely
No,
different.
it
Life
doesn't.
ends at some point. God will end your life at
I
some
don't
point.
wanna
But to
hear-
sit
but, like,
here and end it on
I'm sorry,
your terms.
what happened to my
as a
turn?
person on
What
your
happened to my turn
terms.
speaking, brother? So you want to talk about abortion being murder. To you, that's a religious opinion that you hold.
And a factual one.
It is
because you're
literally
taking
not.
away the right to life from someone.
not.
You are killing them.
I need you to consider, why do you care so much about these children who you will not provide health care to, children that you will not provide food to, people that you will not rely
About SNAP benefits?
No,
I'm not.
I'm talking about children in our country who are currently on WIC, who are on SNAP, who are in homeless shelters, who are in domestic abuse shelters. I'm talking about children who
Would
are
you
in
rather them not have a
abusive homes.
chance? Do you want them to not even have a chance at
I am fucking
life?
talking.
Do you not want them to have a chance?
Why do you care so much about these children that you will refuse to provide future support to more than you care about the children who are dying in mass shootings, that you will defend every right to hell and back, that people still deserve assault rifles and these destructive weapons?
question.
Number one, I would like to clarify again that an assault rifle, that definition is used by gun control activists to confuse and scare you. You weren't even able to explain to me the actual definition of an assault rifle.
You were doing your
Secondly,
opening statement.
what I would like to point out is, of course, I care about that kids. I care about the millions of people that aren't in my generation that didn't get the chance to be amazing people that could have contributed to our society and maybe could have solved all these problems that you're complaining about. But instead, people decided to not be responsible for their actions and to murder those children before they even had a chance at life. And I think regardless of the quality quality of your life, you would want to chance it too. And it is not up to someone else, particularly the person who conceived you, to decide that you don't have that chance. Everybody deserves that chance. And yes, that's a religious belief, but it's a factual one too.
No, it's
because
not.
regardless of when
It's not
life
factual at all.
scientifically begins, which again,
Absolutely
you didn't
not.
answer to me whether
No,
if
there's
life
no
doesn't begin at
scientific
conception, when
definition.
does it start?
No, you're asking
Right,
for something
because
that
no
doesn't
matter what,
exist.
that life will occur.
There
So
is
how
no
can you sit here and
definition.
say
It
life will
doesn't
occur no
exist.
matter what? No matter what, life is going to occur. So you are ending that chance
No,
and that
it's not.
life.
It's not
You are
guaranteed
ending
it'll
a
occur.
life.
I know you have to leave. Is there any space to find common ground on this one?
On abortion, I think that when someone is stuck in a religious purview of an issue,
No shots?
That doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound like common ground. And again, it's the facts too. It's not just my religion.
facts.
Wait, guys.
Catholicism is fact, so my religion is fact. Thank you.
Guys, ooh, okay. Bring it back to reality. The key is the base, okay? But in order to get to a better society, let's try and find some common ground, okay?
Children shouldn't be raped and have to give birth to a child.
I don't think we're going to find common ground on this one, unfortunately. Doesn't sound like she wants to.
I just
Are we
said
good? Are we
children
done?
shouldn't be
We have
raped and be
$20.
forced to have a child.
Like I said, the circumstances
I
of your
just
conception
said-
do not define your
I
worth as a
just said
person.
a
What would you
child
say?
should not be raped and have to be forced to give birth to a child.
Yes, and the circumstances of your conception, I will keep saying this, do not define your worth as a person.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say.
Okay, so we only have $20 for the common ground because you guys found common ground on one subject. I'm gonna hand these papers to you. Don't show each other what you're writing down, okay? You've got split and seal. If you both write split, you share the 20, you get 10 each. If one of you writes seal and one of you writes split, the person that wrote seal wins the money, okay? If you both write seal, no one wins the money. On my go, you're gonna show each other. The crowd is anticipating. 3, 2, 1, go. Damn. She's go. No,
No, I split.
she's so.
I'm a loving person.
Well, not the children who get shot in schools.
No, I want to help their mental health, remember?
Damn. Okay.
Well, by cutting healthcare too.
Would you guys shake hands?
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate that.
That was a great conversation.
That was a great conversation. And if you enjoy great conversations just like these, subscribe to our channel.
Let's do something.